right, everybody, welcome to the morning tea. I think we're on episode, I don't know, 14, 15, doesn't matter. Anyway, I am here this morning with Elise Brathwaite. Elise is a spiritual healer and a unity consciousness educator. I'm going to have her tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, Elise, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so glad this is aligned for us. I'm really, really excited.
Yeah. Elise, what do you have in your cup this morning?
Today, I have actually some kombucha. So from a local place, Soul Booch. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Soul Booch. We'll get the link and we'll post it because
they're amazing. Like the best flavors kombucha, and they're local. So yeah, super helpful, especially right now.
Awesome. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Today I have got a herbal tea in my Align mug. I've also got a coffee on the go too, but it's cold, which is generally how I drink my coffee because I often forget about it. Elise, what are you grateful for today? Let's start this with some.
Oh, I'm actually grateful for so much. So to narrow it down to one thing, but you know, what I'm grateful for today is the sun. I had a beautiful walk this morning with my dog and everything's getting green and the sun is shining. I can feel the warmth on me right now. I'm really, really grateful for the sun. I think we all need it. And again, there's many things I'm grateful for right now, but in this present moment, I can feel it and just feel it shining on my face. So I'm loving it.
I can see it beating down on you. It's
lovely.
This morning, I'm feeling really grateful for mountain views. And I actually tried to set this up outside on the balcony so that I could share that with all of you, but it just wound up with me being very backlit and the sounds of the street behind me. So I'll work on that and see if I can figure something out. Okay, so let's get back to this. Unity Consciousness Educator. Now, there are not many people with that title. So I'd like you first to just explain what that is for you.
Well, you know, it's really a self-decided title, and you're right, there's not many people with that title. So, you know, it really comes down to, you know, spiritual healer is something that a lot of people recognize and understand. And it's not something that I totally align with because I really have a belief that I'm not healing anyone, that they're doing their own healing. So it's something that I'm morphing. It's been a tough one. And I know many other, you know, healers who feel the same, like, I'm not really healing, but yet we need something, you know, on that business card or on that Instagram post that people can say, oh, I think that's what I need. But, you know, we're at a level of consciousness now where people are starting to, you know, understand things in a different way. And what unity consciousness really means to me is that we are here to understand that we are collective consciousness and that we really are unified. And that when we come back to that understanding that we are all one, you know, that, and not like we are one separate, but one, but no, really one and operating through individual expressions of that oneness. And that unity consciousness has the ability for us to transcend so much of our separations, or the illusion of separation, and our differences and our fears. And so when I remember I was meditating for like weeks on this, like, what am I, you know? And it was just by series of events. I remember reading something and then this, and then it's like, it just like spliced these two beautiful words together. And I was like, yes. So, you know, it's that what I'm here to do is help, you know, awaken, educate and inspire people to reclaim their spiritual gift and connection. That's what I'm really here to do. And to help them remember who they came here to be.
Beautiful. I can't tell you how many, you know, soulpreneurs I've had conversations with about how to title what they do. Like, and it is a real struggle to find the perfect words because so often words just completely fail.
Thank you. Yeah. And the thing is that, like most, again, soulpreneurs, is that it's not one thing you do.
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing, is that you actually bring all of you to what you do.
Yes.
And all of you to what you do means all of your educational backgrounds, all of your experience, but it's also all of your life experience.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have a title. Like, you know, I would much prefer if the card could say, you know, human being or divine being. You know, what am I? A divine being, right? And I'll bring that to the table of everything I do. But we're not at the point of just saying, and that's enough. I understand that, and I want to work with that, right? So you're absolutely right, is that there's no one title that encompasses all that anyone brings, whether they're a soulpreneur or a spiritual healer or not, that anyone brings.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love that you noted this like desire just to be, you know, labeled as a divine being. I have to say, so how I actually came across Elise is, I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. It might have been through Juliana. Somebody posted that there was this woman who was doing these, you know, morning SRT readings, clearings, and I tuned in and was just like, who is this? Like, I need to know this woman, because I just felt, it just immediately resonated with what you were doing. And honestly, it's been incredible to see the audience grow, and not only in numbers, but in, you know, in their own spiritual ways. And I have to say, it's been a testament to you and you acting through your divineness in what you're doing, and the way that you shine your light and bring these people together and speak to so many.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Facebook lives, you know, came up right as COVID started, and it was just like woke up and they're like, didn't wake up. I was like driving home and like, you need to go on Facebook immediately. And I was like, I'll do it after. And when I say they, I mean spirit I was hearing. And I'm like, I'll do it after. And I was like, no, now. And I remember the first one, I should go back and look at it. I was like disheveled. I'm like, hey, I'm on here. You know, I had no idea what was going to be coming down the pipe. And even spirit saying you need to be on every day at 8. And I remember negotiating, could it be 9? Could it be 9:30? And it's been amazing for me as well. And, you know, again, of course I've received so many people, thank you so much for what you're doing. You're changing my life. And again, I go back to, no, you're changing your life. You're the ones who are showing up. You're the ones who are doing the work and the homework and all of that. And I also have a dear friend who said, you know, so often I hear you not take the credit. And she's like, it's beautiful. And what I think you need to remember is that you're holding a container for people, and that I'll take credit for, you know, that I'll say, you know, it's something I love. It excites every ounce of my essence when I see people have a breakthrough, because it's felt. It's like I bawled. You've been watching. I'm like bawling my face off when somebody's having. I'm like, oh yeah, it's so amazing, because it's that aspect of me that's healing. It's that aspect of all of us that's healing. And the more people are doing it, the more we're holding this grid. And, you know, day one, I couldn't tell you how many people were on, but now it's, you know, reaching 100 plus. And
yeah,
we have anywhere from 70 to 90 people regularly checking in. And it's amazing. I couldn't have planned that. I couldn't have imagined that into existence, you know? And so it's my absolute honor to be helping and supporting, and especially at this time. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I've been preparing for this for a long portion of my life. Yeah.
It's just been amazing. So I will also post the link for people if they are interested in tuning into that. I
absolutely
highly recommend it. Okay, so when I approached you and asked you what you'd like to talk about on the morning tea, what you had said was entering the age of harmony, the journey to inner union, and heiros gamos. Now, this was a new term for me, so I actually had to look it up. Yeah. And what the definition was, according to Google, was a sacred marriage that plays out between a god and a goddess, especially when enacted in a symbolic ritual where human participants represent the deities. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really help me to figure out what it is specifically that you wanted to go after, but so I'll let you take the ball here.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, I mean, I guess I'll give an explanation, you know, in a more like earthly term of what gamos is. So essentially what it is sacred union. It's sacred partnership. So it's when two partners, and it doesn't matter which, male, female, same sex, it doesn't matter. But when two partners come together and they start to essentially expand their souls from that union. Okay. So what happens when you enter into sacred union is that it's actually a soul expansion. So we are talking about sexual experience, but it's also more than just the sexual experience. It's about all of the experience of growth that happens when you're in that type of sacred partnership.
Yeah.
Now that's like well, it's part of the end game. But the before we get there, which is the rest of it, which is the journey to inner union, is where each one of those partners actually really has to be able to step into the inner union of the self. So what we're really talking about is the masculine and the feminine archetype within, and being in harmony with that. So we're entering into the age and the era of harmony. So as a lot of people know, or maybe don't know, we've moved out of the patriarchal era. Well, we were in a matriarchal era for about 2,000 years. We're moving out of the patriarchal era. And a lot of people, it was all about activate the divine feminine, and that's all true. And it's not for the purpose of the feminine now taking over the masculine again. It's for us to understand that we need to be in harmony. So when we were, so just to give a little backstory to this, and a lot of this has come through like visions that I've been given through spirit, is that when we were because I asked the question, I ask a lot of questions. I'm like, I don't understand. Why would this have ever changed? If we had reached this level of enlightenment, why would the patriarchal era come in? Why would this happen? It seems so dark and ugly and separate, and the ego is so loud, right? Why would this have been allowed? And so, especially when we know that we're here to return to the essence of love. So I'm like, if we had arrived, why did it change? And what I saw, and it helps that I see, because I am clairvoyant, because then you can't, like, I'm seeing the picture beyond what we can, like, again, sometimes there's no words. So I'm not sure that you could read it in a book and experience it the same way as when I saw it and felt it. So what I saw was, as a humanity, as being very, it was lovely. We were all free loving, and everything was, people were naked, and the body was just the body, and everybody knew that they were a spiritual being inside of the physical vessel. And that's wonderful. But what I also saw, and it was almost like I was walking through, and I had this like narrator, right? And it was like, you see how everybody's in love, and they can see the essence of each other, and they want to engage in that essence, the aspect of them. Right? It's like engaging with the aspect of them. So it was all beautiful. But then what I also saw was everybody laying around, and it was complacency. And then what spirit did is it took me up into higher realms. And it was kind of like this access point was closing in. There was a darkness, and it was closing in. And what I understood was that we were at risk of not being able to return back to source, because our purpose, when we become a soul, so a separate aspect of spirit, so we're all spirit, but an individual aspect of that. And then when we decide to incarnate, because we can become that and never incarnate, but when we decide to incarnate, we are actually agreeing to take part in the continual expansion of consciousness.
Right.
So when we entered into this beautiful bliss state, finally, right, took time to get there, finally, we were now no longer expanding. And so if you think about expansion, it needs to continue in order for everything to continue thriving. It was starting to close in. And then what I saw was a collective group of souls sitting up. It was like sitting in the realms of the universe. It was an interesting vision that I had. And it was like everybody coming together and looking up at this hole that was slowly closing in, and looking down at everyone and saying, so we could leave them there and we could just return.
Yeah.
Or we recognize that that's an aspect of us.
Yeah.
So we've got to do what we need to do. And so then what I heard is that everybody at that time were spiritual warriors, and that they came in to essentially save us.
Yeah.
And so it was like, however much, time in the context of consciousness is, who knows how long that was going to be. Right. But it was, I can't say it was like we had 100 days. I don't know. But the point is, if we kept going the way we were going, it would have been gone forever. Mm-hmm. And so souls agreed to come in and play their role. So either they came in, and so they were coming in to bring in the masculine energy and reignite it. and which turned up too loud, became the patriarchy and the really loud ego. And then we had those who said, like, somebody's got to be on the other side. So now, are you okay if I come in and hurt you and I harm you and I take away what you've always known? And then what I saw, because I was like, well, how did it get here? Like, I asked them, well, how did it just get here? Did somebody land? Like, what happened? Because often when I do clearings with people, I will literally see it's like a wave of darkness flooding in. And it's just this wave, and the people look different. Everything, their energy looks different. And I think, well, where did they come from? Because it's so foreign to this. And then what I saw was, and it was so interesting, Spirit brought me down into the earth core. And it was like I was at the center of the earth and I saw lava. And it was like, it started, knowing that, everything's connected, right? So it started at the earth's core. And then what I saw was the animals eating it. And I saw it in the grass. And then I saw it in the trees and in the air. And then in the water. And so we were taking in this reprogramming over time. Mm. And then there were people that were at a distance so that it did look different. And then when they came in, so like they got the activation, then when they met with these people who were still kind of really living in this beautiful space, then it was like two worlds colliding, completely two worlds colliding. And so, we agreed to that. And that's where now, and then we have suffered 2,000 years of trauma, 2,000 years of separation, 2,000 years of the ego getting so loud and competing and having differences. And it's not a win-win. Somebody has to be on top. And we've spent 2,000 years doing that. And now where we are is we can see the harm that it has caused us and the planet.
Yeah.
And so now it's not about rolling it over the total other way and being like, we got to go back to that. It's about recognizing that what we're here to do is be in harmony. So we're really here to befriend the ego and to understand that without the ego, there's no filter through which the soul can experience. Mm-hmm. The ego is the illusion of separation. The ego is the physical body. Yeah. The ego is what gives the soul, it's the vessel that the soul gets to experience in. So without it and without befriending it, we don't get to become that which we were meant to be.
If you don't if you don't have the contrast, you don't get to see, you don't have the growth, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. When there was no contrast, we were no longer growing.
Yeah.
And so the contrast had to come in. And another thing that I had read in this book by the Palladians, and it was so not funny, but funny. The question was asked, well, why do we suffer? And they said, we don't know. For whatever reason, when you guys are in the physical body, you do not learn or grow until you have suffered.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Even for me, right? I'm like, been in a bad relationship. I won't leave at the first sign or the third sign, right? It's like, we'll keep doing things, I'll keep eating cookies when I know it makes my stomach hurt, right? We have to suffer. And now I don't really think that that's true. I think it's just the way, it's one option, but we can also choose for it to not be the only option. And with awareness, it can help us to say, okay, I know I don't want to suffer. So what do I need to do now? But in that context, it made me realize that colliding of the worlds, it couldn't be smooth. It couldn't be this soft transition. It had to be this like blast to shake things up. And that's what it did. And that's kind of what's happening now. So we're at that next turnaround of the 2,000 years. And so what a lot of people are experiencing is that mass shakeup. And now what happens on a soul level is that you remember that. So even though in the context of the now, you're not thinking, well, some people are feeling this sense of impending doom. And it's not because they can logically say, we're okay, we're going to be fine. But the soul remembers, and it remembers the energy and the frequency of this transition. So that's why I work with people one-on-one to clear that energy of the frequency of that transition so that they're in the neutral experience of the now. Now, one of the beautiful things that I also saw in clearing was that those of us that were there at the end, that were there to usher in, so to speak, the darkness. And the darkness is also where the light gets to shine through, right? So it's not darkness is bad, but usher in the darkness, that those of us that played our part and said, okay, I love all of us. I love all of me. I love everything enough to do that, to be love in whatever way it needs me to show up. That our contract with that is that our right was that we would get to be here on the planet now to see the light come back in. And it's such a beautiful, amazing time that we get to see it come back in within ourselves and then within other people.
I got
and
chills.
I know, right? It's so beautiful, and it's so exciting. And when we can start to really do our work to remember who we are, and to not avoid what we don't want to be, or to not avoid the ego and all of that, but to make friends with it, and to even get to a point where we can laugh and be like, oh, you're being so silly, but I get you. We can be afraid for a little bit, or whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
And so the point of all that long story is that we are now at the point of healing, and everybody's healing something. So either we have men who, and what's interesting is I find it's very intertwined. So it's not just like, oh, our feminine's healed, now we just have to heal the masculine. It's like one can't be turned up all the way without the other being turned up. So if there's aspects of your masculine that's not healed, there's aspects of your feminine that's not. It's the yin and the yang, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
as we heal whatever aspect of us on any given day or at any point in our life is ready to be healed, we're bringing into better harmony the duality of who we are.
Yeah.
And when we come into harmony within ourselves, then we can be in harmony outside of ourselves. And that harmony outside of ourselves is where that heiros, gamos, and that sacred union gets to come in.
Yeah.
And so the first layer is doing that within yourself. And that is a journey.
It's absolutely a journey. And it's like, excuse me. We were saying earlier, it's, it often comes through suffering, but it doesn't necessarily need to be through suffering. Once you have the awareness that the contrast is the fuel almost to the expansion and the growth, and you can see it as a gift rather than as suffering,
Absolutely. Yeah. I chuckled yesterday. I read this beautiful quote by Eckhart Tolle, and it said, rather than being your thoughts and your emotions, be the awareness behind them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's the whole thing. And not, like I said, not to devalue your thoughts and your emotions. And that's where I think a lot of other type of trauma comes in, is when we think we have to, okay, I just need to be a being of love. Nothing bothers me. And it's like, no, that's what we call spiritual bypassing.
Wow.
And so then the next thing you know is that the body is sick or whatever, and you're trying to figure out why. It's like, well, there's a bunch of shit that you haven't processed,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also not the way to enlightenment. That's also not the way to inner union.
Right. Can you talk to me a little bit about the reprogramming that you've been doing and what SRT is for people who are not familiar with the practice?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and most people aren't familiar with SRT. And I also know that part of my role on this planet is to bring SRT to the forefront. But so SRT is it's an acronym for spiritual response technique. Some people say therapy, but I call it technique because people do have a trigger around therapy. And it's a modality of working with a series of charts that were downloaded by an absolutely amazing human being who has left the planet. They were channeled, and he's amazing, like super enlightened being, definitely from a galactic system. He's amazing. And but they act as a map, essentially. So they act as a map. And we're basically dowsing. But what happens is that when I'm working one-on-one with somebody, or even in a group collective, is that for me, they kind of open up. So it's an opening of the Akashic records to go in and see where energy is stored in past life. So I give people the example of, we know that energy is not created or destroyed, it's transformed. Yeah. So if something has occurred, and I usually give the example of, you think of that person in high school that you really couldn't stand. Everybody, boom, has a memory. It pops in, you know exactly who it is. If you saw them now, you might even be reluctant to be like, hi, right? Because that energy is still there. And you might even say, well, this is silly. This is silly. We were young, but the energy is still there. It has not been transformed yet. And so when we are in the physical vessel, that's what we're doing. We've got this opportunity for energy, and we're deciding it's good, it's bad, I don't like it, I like it, this was harmful, this was this, whatever that looks like. So now we leave the physical body, we go back to oneness, we incarnate again, and we tend to reincarnate with our soul families, with our soulmates, and we come back into this physical experience. And it's kind of like you arrive, and generally, you know, we're here to heal and release. That's what we're here to do, right? Yeah. Here, and through healing and releasing, we're growing. And so when you connect then with that, you know, former past life person, that it's like you remember the energy. Now, so I'll give an example of, for example, I've worked with somebody who had a really huge conflict with his family, and also suffered because he didn't understand why. Mm-hmm. He was like, I had a good family, I had everything I needed. Like, it doesn't actually make sense, but I know how I feel inside. And he never felt accepted, and he never felt loved. And he always felt like he was doing everything wrong. And even from the outside looking in, people would be like, I don't get it. Like, you know, unless something's happening behind closed doors where, you know, this family's putting on a different farce, you know, went down the road with drugs and whatnot. Anyways, started working with him with SRT. And what had come up was that he had actually caused a lot of harm to his family members in past life. And so that energy now of guilt, of shame, of self-hate, of all of that literally came in with him in the womb.
Right.
Because he was back with the same people to heal it. Yeah. Now, because we're here to return back to the essence of love, we tend to be doing the clearing about whatever has separated us from that in the first place. And that whatever he learned in that past life, that wisdom, that knowledge, that whatever that looks like, isn't accessible to him while he is out replaying the energies. So for example, if he had been somebody in a position of power, let's say, and abused that power, then what ends up happening is that he will often feel powerless, or when he has power, or tends to be that they will tend to not want the power. So they'll self-sabotage from getting promotions and jobs. Like, it affects all these, you know, sprinkles through all these areas in your life. And so then we get back to where the energy is rooted, and we clear it where it needs to be cleared from. Right. And then it gets to clear through the ripple time field and release you in the present, because you came into this life for actually a neutral experience and to heal something, but not through punishment. We're not here to relive it.
Right.
Right. So it's a very, I am so grateful for finding the modality. Well, it found me really. And it's been my practice now for 8 years, and it continues to develop. I see charts coming in that are not even in the earth realm yet. And it's an absolute blessing. Absolute blessing.
Yeah. I can speak from experience that within your clearings, you know, I don't, necessarily get to witness, because I'm not clairvoyant. I don't see things that way, but I don't witness necessarily the healing happening at the point in time where it's being healed. But I just immediately feel like this, like there's a release, you know, the like weight has been lifted, like, you know, like I could float up off the ground, you know. Yep, it's totally powerful stuff.
It is. It's really interesting to me, because for the longest time, you know, people would say, well, what do you do? Like, well, what is this really? And I'm like, in so many ways, it's hard to explain without just experiencing it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You know, and that's also where we're really moving to, is we're moving into this age of Aquarius, where we are now seeking information and knowledge, but that is experience versus like saying, this is what it is, so do it this way. We're now like, right? Like, we're becoming more expansive. So I actually think, and I know that the timing of everything coming together, me going on the lives and more people receiving that, it's because they were ready. Like, as a collective consciousness, we were, oh, okay, I don't know who this woman is. Wow, I feel so much better today. I don't know what that's about, but I'm going to show up again. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what's been happening. And when I clear as a group, and this is a really fascinating thing on my end, because I'm always in witnessing, like, I'm like, what's happening here? This is amazing. Right. But what's interesting for me is that leaving 2018, going into 2019, it was December, and I heard Spirit say, you need to do a group clearing. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I work one-on-one. That's how it works. And Spirit was like, no, you need to do a group clearing. And so having never done one before, but I trust. I'm like, okay, well, if that's what you say, make it happen. So I put up a post about it and whatnot. And at the time I was working out of Lifestyle, and I love them so much. And I also know that a large part of the time with me, they were like, who is this woman and what is she really doing? Right. And so we had booked this, and I had booked this space. It was right before the new year, and it was called Stepping into the New Year in Purpose. And it was on a Sunday, and it was Wednesday. And they were like, so I think we should cancel it because we only have 3 people registered. And I was like, well, let me check with Spirit. So I checked, and it was like, no, go ahead. And I was like, okay, well, and I saw Spirit almost put out like, it reminded me of like Wi-Fi waves. Like, when you see the bar, it was like, no, we're putting it out. And I'm like, okay. So, and I said, do you guys have anything else going? They were like, no, we can leave it up. Like, if you're cool with that. I'm like, yeah. So from Wednesday to Sunday, there was 3 people. And by Sunday, there were 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was, and we all just chuckled, right? We're like, okay. And so, we did this beautiful clearing about stepping into the new year in purpose. And I really said, Spirit, I need you to guide me here because Spirit's always guiding it, but I've never done this. So you really need to grab the wheel. And it was really fascinating because what I saw was like, almost like what we now know as Zoom, but I used to say the Brady Bunch, but all these little squares. And it was like everybody's soul. I was like these little screens where I would see everybody's soul playing out the same things. And so I sat and contemplated it after, and then I was like, well, it makes sense because we all come in to learn, like, how do I say it? So like if I'm coming in to learn prosperity, right? There's so many ways to learn prosperity. So many, right? I can learn prosperity through hard work, through just getting it, through winning the lottery, right? There's so many ways. And so as a collective, let's say we were coming in to clear that, right? Or our blocks to prosperity. So there might be colorful different things, but it was like, we all come in to learn the same themes, but through our unique way. And so that was really interesting. I was like, cool. Then it was like, you got to do another. I'm like, okay, interesting. And so 2019, I really worked on, like, I had pretty much, there was a group clearing every month, and they of course were in person. And then of course, go on a Facebook Live. I didn't at all expect it to be what it has become. And yet I was like, oh, you were preparing me.
Yeah.
You're totally preparing me. And I love it because technology is not really my jam, but it was like, now all I had to learn was the technology piece. I didn't also have to do that.
Right.
Like I already understood that, like, it's no different. We're just holding it as a collective. We're just holding it like we've all done this. What are the energies that are limiting us? And so it's been amazing. It's been fascinating. It's been exciting. It's been like, my heart just continues to expand because I know everybody else is learning and growing and shifting and stepping into their light in so many ways. And it's just such a beautiful time to be on the planet right now. As much as it doesn't feel like it in some ways, it really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Okay, we are, I think, beyond half an hour. So I am going to wrap this up. For anybody that wants more of Elise, and believe me when I say that you do, I am going to post the links to her Facebook page, which is where she's been airing the SRT morning sessions. And it's not just SRT either. Elise, the word sermon is coming to mind, but I know that people have attachments to that, so it's maybe not the right word. I don't know if you've got a better one, Elise.
I chuckled that you say that because I've had this weird affinity with religion my whole life, to go in and learn and then be like, nope, go in and learn, nope.
Yeah.
And one of my dear nail clients, who's been with me for 16 years, she said to me, do you remember how you used to want to be a reverend? And I had totally forgot that. I'm like, I think I need to go to ministry school. And it's so funny. Like, I don't know where at that time I was at, but something had come in and said that. So yeah, it does feel like a sermon, but I call it The other day I said it's like the real spiritualist, right? Where it's like, I'm pissed off at my kids and everything's going wrong and this sucks. And how can we be loved when it sucks, right? It's like, it is a sermon, but yeah, I don't, you know what? I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on that appropriate word for that.
Anyway, it's a beautiful, 30 minutes to an hour, I would say, of Elise doing clearings, talking about spirit, talking about, connection, and playing amazing music, inspired music, dancing, swearing. It's just, it's all of the good shit. So yes, highly recommend you tune into that. Also, I assume that people can also contact you via your Facebook if they would like one-on-ones with you. I know you've got
through my Facebook or on my website, EliseBrathwaite.com works too. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Anything you want to add? What have you got going on? Is there anything else that you would like people to know about? Oh,
yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's probably a good idea. So I have a course. Yeah, I have a course starting next week. So again, transitioning things from being in person to being online. But, I'm really loving online because, of course, you can access more people at different places than just locally. So it's the Pursuit of Mastery course that's coming up. It starts, there's 2 seatings, one Tuesday evening and one Thursday mornings. And it's really about stepping into that journey of understanding who you are as a spiritual being, understanding how and the whys of what has already been created in life, and really starting to change the context of who you are so that you can start to bring in new experiences. We got to change the framework and start to heal the framework and have some understanding and awareness around the framework so that you can start to become all that you were meant to be and start to remember what that is. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited. So that's coming up, and I Spirit say that I've got some kind of like 1-day workshops coming up online. So I'm like, okay, just give me a minute. I just need to get this off and running. And then there's also the Unity Consciousness Collective Facebook group that is launching this Saturday. And so I'm really excited about that as well, because there'll be some guest speakers on there and some other just amazing people who are stepping into their light, ready to share with the world. So yeah,
awesome.
Lots of fun things. And of course, I find it so much fun.
What's that? Say that again.
And of course, the I Fly community. That's so much fun.
Yes. And so all of this information will be on your website, yes?
Yep. It is.
Perfect.
All on my website.
Wonderful. Elise, thank you again. We're getting a little glitchy here, so I guess we're wrapping up with perfect timing.
That's my up, right?
And everybody else,
thank you so much for having me, Annie. I'm so.
Oh, I'm losing you again. Thank you.
Oh.
And
I was just saying thank you also.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for being here on the morning tea and checking this out. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Sounds good. Thank you.